Hey guys, this is Alec from the Bentral podcast. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. For starters, it's free. Who doesn't like free stuff? I know I do. No need to invest into $1,000 soundboards or hundreds of dollars into microphone equipment. Anchor provides you with creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Additionally, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership using ads like this one. It's simple and easy to use and everything you'll need to make a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor FM to get started today.
How's it going?
Good, you?
Great. Ready to talk some Survivor.
Let's go. Charlie here with Swifty, and we're about to recap season 40 of Survivor. The finale was on Wednesday. Tony Vlachos from New Jersey became the Survivor GOAT after winning his second season in dominant fashion. I don't know, Sam, he was your favorite player going into the season. Are you glad to see your boy have the crown?
Oh, for sure. Everything about that guy's gameplay was so enjoyable to watch. Every single season he was on. It makes for interesting TV. He's out there doing like spy bunkers and spy shacks, and what was the most recent one this season where he's up in the
spy
trees?
nest.
The spy nest, yeah. It might be a little extra for some people, might not have needed all those, but it's just really enjoyable. He's out there gooning, and he definitely dominated the season and deserved to get the win, I thought, definitely.
Yeah, he was just running circles around everyone, just strategically, and also just like he won 4 challenges, which was one shy of the record, which is 5. He was just like so energetic when there was a secret scene on YouTube where he was like, I'm just so energy, man. And he was just like chopping wood, and just everyone is like, I'm drained. Like Ben was like, I'm so tired. And then Tony's like running and he's like chopping wood, and he's just like, I don't know what to do, man.
Yeah, I mean, it got like halfway through the season, and players are going, and it was getting pretty far into it, and I was like, I need some Tony action. I didn't feel like there was very much stuff going on around Tony, and then sure enough, I think that episode it was when I was thinking that he started going on his run of immunity wins and started getting into his game after the merge, and it was really enjoyable for me to watch and saw the moves he was making, and when somebody said his name or tried to go after him. Who was that girl that wanted to go after him?
Kim, I believe.
Kim. Yep, it was Kim. Kim went after him, and like next thing you know, she was gone at like the next tribal council.
Yeah, so. when Tony won immunity and he knew Kim wanted him gone, he gunned for it. And I actually give props to Kim, because it seems like she was the only one who had a read on the game at that point, because everyone else was just. I mean, Tony got no votes all season, which is just shocking considering that he was like one of the biggest targets coming in because of how dominant he was on Game Changer, or not Game Changers. He flamed out that on Game Changers. He got voted out second, but in Cagayan, he was just like crazy and just dominated that season. So he had a target on his back, but somehow came in and won the game without any votes all season. So that was crazy.
It's crazy. Like there's a lot of talk about people wanting him out, but I think he just either won immunity or somehow kind of directed it off of him. I know to figure out like who to target, like he figured out like Kim's blindside plan through Nick, who he kind of had a weird relationship with throughout. But I know like Nick came to him and said, oh, hey, Kim's going for you and getting the girls. And, I definitely think that relationship definitely helped him, and he was able to utilize that because he was kind of playing both sides at one point. He had like he called it like his real alliance, and then he called it like his fake alliance. And I think this is around the time where he got the thing from the Edge of Extinction, the disadvantage, the extortion thing. where he had to pay the 6 fire tokens, and he didn't really have enough. I forget. I think he needed 3 more. Didn't he have 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought like that was kind of overlooked too, because like he kind of beasted on that, where he needed to get the 3 to get stay within or be able to compete in the immunity challenge and to vote. And I think that was the week that he won it too. So like he was able to convince like people that he wasn't even really truly aligned with to give him a fire token so that he could compete and win immunity. So I thought that was a really good play by him that didn't really get talked about in the finals.
Yeah, that episode, that extortion episode was, I agree, that was just incredibly impressive that, you know, he's a big target and looks like the leader of an alliance, yet somehow he's like he's on alliance with like every single member of the tribe, and he could easily just scoop up like fire tokens and pay off this disadvantage like it was nothing. And that episode was like particularly awesome because he set the record for confessionals with 18 when it was only an hour-long episode, and he even beat like finale confessional record. So I mean, that was just crazy, and that's when I was like, okay, Tony is like in serious. This is getting serious. I just hope he can make it to the end here, and he did. So
yeah, definitely. All right. Sweet.
We can start off with I guess there's the Edge of Extinction challenge, and then just like recap the finale, and then we can do season thoughts and what we liked and didn't like from the season. So,
yeah. So the second, whatever, the Extinction challenge that we're talking about, I actually wanted Natalie to win. I thought it was kind of a cool story that she had. Like, obviously, Boston Rob or somebody like that winning would have been pretty sweet. The one person that actually didn't want to win was Wendell, because he had that weird relationship there with Michelle, and I'm like, I don't want to have this weird like dating thing 2.0 where they're like trying to work with each other and they're like kind of, I don't know, don't like each other.
Awkward, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a weird tension that I didn't need to see any more of. So I definitely didn't like that part with, you know, earlier they had that tribe with Parvati and was it Nick who said he had a crush on her or something like that? So the whole vibe was weird. So I didn't want Wendell to win. But I definitely actually wanted Natalie to win just because the story, and I also wanted to see what she could do with the immunity idol that she had for herself after, and she'd really grinded for it. And she was just like a tank all throughout the time on Extinction. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was cheering for one of the 3 with the idols, Boston Rob, Tyson, or Natalie to get back in. Or Parvati, because I really enjoy her strategy and social game. But I really just wanted someone that would, like, I didn't want Nick or Wendell or Adam or like any of the new school players. I wanted to see like one of the legends come back in, and then, or Natalie, because of, you know, she was first person voted out of the entire season, and she got 14 tokens. She even just gave away a free idol to what's his face, Tyson. Because she just like had a bond with him and figured, hey, it'll give me a jury vote or whatnot if I make it back in, and she ended up getting the vote from Tyson. So yeah, I was just cheering for one of the people with idols, and it looked like Natalie was actually like at risk there when she couldn't get through like the first ropes course thing where you go around the post with the rope. I'm like, oh gosh, this would be super sad if she just spent like a month out on with like no rice or anything, and then like she gets back with all these advantages. She doesn't have to dig. She already has 1/3 of her rope bridge built for her. I'm just like, oh man. And then when I saw Wendell was at the ball course, I was just like, and he got one in, I was like, oh gosh, like I did not want that to happen, because I was just like, it'd just be kind of lame if he came back in, even though I really enjoyed Wendell his season, Ghost Island. But so yeah, I was glad to see Natalie come back and work with Michelle. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, that was definitely cool. I don't remember. Do you have the order pulled up? Who went next? Was it Sophie after that?
For who got voted out?
Yeah, the next.
So Sophie was the person that got that Tony blindsided on his extortion episode, which really was like the turning point when he got that vote without having, it was like 9 people and he got a vote of 4 to win it, I think.
Yeah,
it was 4-3-2 and he got the majority of 4 to win, which was crazy.
Yeah, that was the episode that he was playing both sides, I think. Yeah, where I was talking about the extortion thing that was thrown upon him, and then he had to get the tokens from, his fake alliance that he called at the time. But I think he actually started working with that kind of so-called fake alliance with Jeremy for a little bit, at least. I know for the next vote too, he voted out Kim. But to go into that vote where he got Sophie, I thought it was just a really smart play. Like, I feel like Sophie was a smart player and would have started to kind of go for Tony.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of got her before, and she had an idol too, so it's definitely a big threat there. But yeah, I definitely thought it was a great move just because he thought through the numbers and realized that, hey, they're splitting the vote, and he was able to be in kind of both sides so he could know what like the majority was doing, so he could make a move like that where he could just get the 4 people pulled together.
Yeah, early in the season, Sophie was looking to me like a threat for like the whole season because she seemed really perceptive and like smart strategically, and I'd never seen her season before, so she was like super impressive to me and seemed like Tony had his pulse on the game and could also tell that she was kind of like secretly like under the radar, was like pulling strings and was making friendships and stuff. And Tony has Cops R Us, but I think that was another aspect of that move that is underrated, is that he kind of isolated Sarah for the rest of the season because she had nowhere else to go or anybody to work with besides Tony. And Tony's like, yeah, you're locked into me now. I know they had that one fight after she's like, you sunk my game after that vote. But I mean, they rode to the end together, and that was because Tony took out Sophie.
Yeah, I really thought the aftermath of that vote was really weird. Because I believe Tony was working with Nick and Jeremy, and then it wasn't Sarah. Who's the?
I want to say it was. I want to say it was Michelle, but I'm not sure. 100%.
Yeah, it was Michelle. You're correct. Yeah, because Michelle and Jeremy kind of had that weird thing where she gave him like the 50-50 coin.
Right.
But she didn't really want to. That was kind of after though. But yeah, Michelle and Jeremy were kind of on the bottom, and Tony swoops in and he says, "Hey, I want to help you. Hey, they're gunning for you, Jeremy. Like, I want to help you." And then Jeremy wasn't really believing him. And so Tony's like, I can't believe I'm begging for this guy, try to help him stay in the game. Like,
yeah,
know what's best for you. I'm trying to help you, man. But so he helps Tony and kind of in turn also helps Michelle. And then Nick and him are working together. And so those 4 had that vote and, they're good or whatever. But then like right after that vote, Nick all of a sudden is completely on the other side. I don't know how that happened. And then Sarah's really mad at Tony and they're kind of fighting, and all of a sudden, Tony and Sarah get together and like they've been partners the whole time kind of. And I know it's Cops R Us, but like it was kind of a weird how it like turned out. And then Michelle ended up kind of getting with the other group too, and then it was just like kind of Jeremy and then Tony, and I don't even know how that played out so weird.
Yeah,
but
I think it just like goes to show Tony's social game was just incredibly strong, that like he was pulling all this stuff. And he said, I'm going to sit on my hands, then once I can go in for the strike, then I can. That's what he said at the beginning of the season, and that's what he did with the Sophie vote. And it just speaks to his social game that everyone kind of just like wasn't mad at him like immediately after, because I mean he was working it. So I mean, he was the winner of the season. So yeah,
definitely sweet. All right, move on to the next one.
Yeah, so going back to the finale. So first vote goes on Denise. She got voted out. 17th person voted out, and 14th member of the jury. That was an interesting vote because Natalie pulled out an idol, and then Tony was like, "I told you guys," which was another impressive part of this episode for Tony, was that he's like, "She's got an idol," and then Sarah and Ben were like, no way she has an idol. And Tony knew the whole time. He could just, he had his finger on the pulse. And so Natalie pulls out her idol. Michelle had immunity. And then Ben and Tony play. So then it's down between Sarah and Denise. And there were no votes for either of them. So they have to go do a revote, I believe, the four people that were immune, and then I was actually pretty surprised that Michelle and Natalie didn't go for Sarah and then make them do a fire making. But I guess they must have figured that Sarah would have been easier to flip or something, because, like, Natalie came into the game saying, like, everyone's voting for Tony and he's the biggest threat out here, and you guys better do something if you want to have a chance at winning this. Mm-hmm. And so I think that they might have thought, maybe Sarah's like wanting to do something like that so she can separate herself for the jury or something. So I thought that's maybe why they did that. I don't know. What did you think of the Denise vote?
Yeah, actually, I was kind of on the same side there. I was kind of confused why they would vote out Denise there. I actually really thought that there would be a tie there and maybe like a fire making, or it would go to rocks, or I don't even know, wherever. But I thought that Denise was a smart enough player. And, at first I was like, okay, yeah, what Sarah's been saying, maybe it sounds like she wants to make a move against Tony. That was kind of my rationale for maybe why they chose to go that route and vote out Denise. But really, like, if you look at Denise, like, the entire time she was definitely like playing it. So like, she had kind of a weird strategy going on. I didn't really even know. She really didn't want to make herself seem like, or talk herself up as like a big threat or big player, and like, oh, I'm less than you. Like, you saw that kind of with the Sandra vote that she had. But I think that she would have, in the end, like, she really wanted to get Tony out because she realized that she wouldn't be able to beat him at the end. And she was a smart enough player that, she'd just take him out. So I'm not really sure why those girls didn't just try to keep her around and take out Sarah, who was close to Tony.
Yeah, it seemed interesting that both Denise and Ben seemed kind of like emotionally and like drained by the end of the season. It's like which was confusing me, because you're at like the final 6 of the all winter season and you guys have worked really hard, and like all you have to do is go Denise, Ben, and Michelle. That's your final 3, and just like vote out Tony and Sarah, even though it would have, like, I guess they were all like, it hurt I wouldn't be able to like live with myself, like, it hurt my emotions, and I don't want to come out here and be like make enemies like in my previous seasons. But I thought that was kind of interesting because, going into the next vote, which was Ben, which was such an interesting sequence when he was like, Sarah, I give you permission to vote for me so you can help your case for the jury. But I actually thought that hurt Sarah because it hurt her odds. I don't know. What did you think of Ben's kind of quitting?
I thought that was the weirdest situation. I didn't really even understand how that could help Sarah's game. Like, it wasn't even Sarah's idea or like a blind side at that point. Ben was pretty much just rolling over and dying. Like, he just wanted to leave. I don't really know how that was much of a move for Sarah. And then she had like an emotional breakdown there, which, after he told her, and they had like a moment, and I was really confused of how that would, get Sarah further and earn her respect from the jury. And like, I mean, she didn't even bring it up at the end on her resume. So like, obviously, I don't think it really was that much. If nothing else, it was just maybe to make it an easy vote so it wasn't Sarah, I guess. I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought like maybe like, since it's like so close to the voting, if both she and Tony made the final 3, you could be like, Tony was clueless at this vote. But I know, like, in post-game interviews, Tony said that Ben blindside was the only time he didn't know, like, in his Survivor career, like, where that was going to happen. So it was so bizarre. And I think Ben was, I mean, I don't want to jump into like big picture stuff, but I think Ben was like one of the biggest losers in my mind from this season, because I just thought his gameplay was poor. He was just riding onto Sarah and Tony the whole time. He was like fighting with people. Like, we never actually got to see why he was like enemies with Jeremy, which was completely bizarre. Like, I know he wanted to get him out because Jeremy is like a super likable dude, but in a big threat. But I'm like, it just didn't make any sense that they like were giving each other this, or Ben was giving him the silent treatment when Jeremy looked like he was like trying. And he also fought with Adam. So it was just a completely confusing season for Ben. Totally different than his season that he won when he was like got like 4 idols and was doing all this stuff. And I mean, I don't know. What do you think of Ben?
Yeah, going back to earlier on with Ben, he was in that tribe with Rob where they were like babysat with like him and Adam, and then they
Sophie
ended up
and
taking
Sarah.
out Rob.
Yeah,
Sophie and Sarah. And that was kind of the earliest I can remember, at least at this point. Then he kind of, I don't know, played his way through the game a little bit, and when it comes up, going all the way up to kind of where we are now, I just always remember him. Like I don't even know how he got with Tony. Like I know he was with the girls for a little while, and then after the blindside vote of Sophie, I believe it was. I think Tony went to Ben and started trying to talk to him and try to bring him over, I guess. I mean, the only thing I can really remember is when Ben found the idol like in front of Tony, and he's like trying to hide it or whatever.
Yeah,
they weren't even like an alliance then or whatever. And like Tony's like, "Hey, you trying to hide the idol? I mean, come on, man! It's like right in front of me. Come on." And so I just remember that, and then Ben starts like carries Tony. That the classic video that they showed a couple of times where he picks up Tony and like runs through the forest or the jungle with him. But yeah, I don't know. I guess that was the beginning of their alliance. It was kind of a weird start.
I just never know. Like, I just think Ben was just like a huge tier down in level of gameplay competence from the others. Maybe that's just how they edited him, but it seemed like, they're like, okay, we'll let Ben make the decision tonight because we need to make him feel like he's in the driver's seat. He was making enemies, and he even quit the game with the final 5. I'm like, what are you doing? You probably have the best chance of anyone to make the final 3 because you can make fire, and you're also good at challenges. Mm-hmm. So I just thought it was completely bizarre that he quit.
Yeah, I thought that was just not a weird situation, but that's how it turned out.
Okay, so going on to the next day, Natalie, it was the ball challenge where you have like the I don't even know what the call is, where the ball is like falls down a track and then you have to catch it and put it back in. So we had Natalie won that, and I mean, impressive performance from her, but because she's like one of the greatest athletes to ever be on Survivor, just physically dominant. But I was pretty impressed with Michelle, especially like her end of season run. She actually had a couple of immunity wins, especially after the one that she was crying because she just struggled so hard with like catching the ball going down the ramp. And then end of season, she wins 2 immunities and was close to winning the final one. So,
yeah, I mean, I'm going to start this off. I'm just going to say, if I ever get on Survivor, I'm going to build myself one of those ball catching machines because they always do that every single year. I'm going to practice in my basement before I leave because, I mean, that's actually a really good challenge. I really enjoy that. I like how they kind of move from the more like physical oriented challenges by like enduring and outlasting people on like a beam and that sort of thing to like more like a skillful thing, or maybe like a maze type. It's not a maze, but like where they have like a challenge where they run.
Yeah, like it seems like the end of season they do like a focus based one where you have to like hold on to a idol for like 10 hours. That's what they did in the early seasons. Or you like do this ball where you have to track your balls and like count the seconds and do all this stuff.
Yeah, I thought that was definitely a good change up. But yeah, Michelle played a great game there at the end. I didn't really always like her game or want her to win throughout the course of the season, but definitely I respected it more and more toward the end, where she was on the bottom, like I said, with Jeremy pretty early on, pretty far away from the final, and ended up just kept holding out for one more day because the game changes so quick that anything can happen if you just make it that extra day. And she kept doing it and won immunities when she needed to. She had that clutch gene and was able to make it to the final 3, sneaking her way in. So I thought it was definitely an underrated game.
Yeah, so Natalie gets the power that day, and then Sarah, Michelle, and Tony go and practice fire, which I think this was Natalie's biggest mistake, because you heard Boston Rob in the votes when he voted for Tony was like, you almost played perfect, but you didn't take out Tony. And I don't know, like, I guess, like, you're giving up a chance at $2 million if you go do fire, but at the same time, like, I think that was her biggest mistake, Natalie's, was not taking on Tony one-on-one and letting Sarah and Michelle go to the final, kind of like Chris Underwood did in season 38 when he came back from the edge. He laid the blueprint when he took out Devins and Fire, who was basically the Tony of that season, just working the strategy.
I loved Devins that season, but I totally agree with you. I don't think that necessarily Natalie should have done it herself. I feel like she actually should have put Michelle against Tony in the fire making, because I really thought that Michelle was actually a really good fire making. Like, she looked really good, like, from when, what we saw in the edits and cutouts. She was doing very well. And I actually thought it was just a bad move to put Sarah in that position too, because I thought if Sarah would have won that would just add another thing to her resume. And to be honest, I didn't think that Michelle had a chance to win. Like, even though she played a great game and she made the final three, I really thought that Natalie's story would have just won out over that anyway. And so the only other person, I thought Tony obviously had the best chance. But then after Tony and Natalie, then I thought it would be Sarah. And so putting Sarah against Tony in the fire making, it was kind of like a lose-lose situation almost, because if Tony makes it, obviously he's the number one threat. If Sarah makes it, she kind of had a similar game to Tony. Obviously, wasn't orchestrating all the things and doing all the things that he was, but she could say that she, took him out. She, like, beat him in the fire making challenge and was clutch when it mattered and earned her way in. That would just add another thing to her resume. So I definitely thought that Natalie should have put Michelle against Tony, where you could have, Sarah make it to the final. All right, yeah. I mean, she might be a competitor a little bit, but I think really Natalie had a better resume. And you take away that, final win of the fire immunity that Sarah might have had, or the fire challenge. And then Michelle, if she would have beaten Tony there, which I thought she probably would have, it would have made for a lot easier path for Natalie to win the $2 million.
Yeah, I think Michelle's only path to victory would be if she was in a final three with Sarah and Tony, and they split the votes between Tony and Natalie, or Tony and Sarah had, like, split votes, like 5-5, and then, like, there was some people like your Jeremy, like some of those people, that Nick, Wendell, people that, like, work with Michelle, and she kind of had a lot of one-on-one alliances that, like, didn't really last. If she could have gathered votes, but yeah, I really think that the fire making was Natalie's biggest mistake and why she didn't end up taking victory. Because if Tony would have been gone, I think most people would like the story of Natalie winning.
Yeah, I mean, she made a lot of friends over there while she was in the edge, and you could see, like, Parvati really liked her, and just a lot of different relationships that I thought would definitely help her in the final. Just not enough to beat Tony, obviously.
Yeah, interesting part of Final Tribal was when Boston Rob was like, why did you exclude us at the edge of extinction the last couple of days, the old school players or whatever? And then I'm like, that's interesting, because they didn't really show it, but I was like, I wonder if that had any effect on people wanting to vote for her or not. Granted, I think Tony would have won no matter who he was against, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah, I thought Natalie really answered that question well, though. Just, like, it was her way of preparing, and sometimes she can get that way, and she kind of didn't say anything was personal about it, but she just wanted to have some time to think and process, and I thought it was totally a fair response there. I want to talk about that fire making challenge, though.
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, we should just talk about the actual challenge, because that was incredible.
That was crazy. I thought, it was back and forth. I thought Sarah was going to win no matter what. It was going to be, easy win there. But, she started out and it was back and forth, and then all of a sudden Sarah's flame was just absolutely raging, burning through.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. But my brother and I were just, like, standing up like it was the Minneapolis Miracle. Like, actually.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, Tony. It was like the closest thing I've had to sports in months.
Yeah, I was, like, yelling at the TV. I was like, no. And then Sarah threw on, like, that huge thing of
Yeah, they're like, she
Huskers.
did it too early. I'm like, that thing was higher than the rope, and I was like, oh
yeah,
my
she
God.
didn't even need to do anything. She could just sat back, hands off, but she like snuffed it out with all that. And next thing you know, it goes down to nothing. And then you look over at Tony, and he's like building the fortress over there with all this.
Yeah, he kept putting on so much sticks. I was like, Tony, come on! I was like, so nervous for him.
Yeah, you got to build up, man. He was like making it super wide and just like this is the biggest thing ever.
Yeah, that would usually seems to me like the fire usually ends up being like a blowout. Like someone just gets going and then the other person can't get their flame. But this one was like the most entertaining that I can remember.
Yeah, definitely.
And they definitely made it seem like Tony wasn't that good at fire in the pre edits. And they're like, when Sarah was giving him tips, she didn't give him tips. Maybe she makes the final three. I don't know, but
yeah, who knows? But she kind of said like, hey, if I want to make fire against somebody, I want to do it against Tony, is what she said. But she kind of played it off like, oh, I want to take him out. Like, I want my partner, shoot a gun at my partner. I don't want anybody else to be the one to take the shot. But I just thought she was saying that. This is how I perceived it. Just because like she thought he was like not very good at fire, and she even said that she didn't think he was in a good mental state for fire. Like when she was like practicing with him and stuff. So she was definitely confident. I feel like that she could win that, and Tony pulled it out somehow. So
yeah, I think Tony was. I mean, we're about to get to the final tribal, but I think Tony was the righteous winner of the season. I think if it wouldn't have felt right if he didn't win because he played the best. So in Survivor has a tendency to a lot of times either pick the person that plays the best gets voted out early, like the last second, like final four, final five, because they're seen as a threat, or like in Michelle's original season, people were going ballistic on Twitter because Aubrey lost to Michelle after playing a great season, and people just didn't realize Michelle's social game was so good. And then, so yeah, that's just one example of how Survivor doesn't always pick who the like percepted winner is. I don't know if that's a word even, but just like who we think the winner should be. But this season, this season definitely got it right with Tony.
Yeah, and one of my pet peeves is the people who are voted out holding grudges against, say, like a Tony type of player, where the dude played a fantastic game. Like, he wins immunities, he's finding idols, he's making blindsides when he needs to. He's, he's the target, and he somehow makes it to the end, even though everybody knows that, don't take this guy to the end. He's going to win. And he makes it to the end, and, he had that wrench thrown in his path when Natalie came in and was like, hey, everybody on the edge wants to vote for Tony and have Tony win. They really think Tony's dominating this game. And Tony's like, oh, no, don't listen to them. Like, I'm not. Like, obviously he's like hoping it's true. But, the fact that he still made it and won, I just think that speaks for itself. But the pet peeve I was talking about where, people in the jury are just hammering him and like, why did you not do this? And you said that you would have gone with me, and like he voted you out. Like he had to do the moves that he needed to do to make it. Like no hard feelings. He played a better game. Like I just like the players that can respect the gameplay and can really just vote for who they think should win. Like not based on, grudges or feeling bad about getting voted out by the person, but just looking at it and saying, okay, this guy deserves it because he outplayed me. So.
Yeah, I thought that it was interesting, Tony, because sometimes I think good strategy in Final Tribal is to not even like go through like the inner details of like every blind side, because then people just start getting like hurt feelings and stuff, and you gotta keep a big picture and say, I had to get here. This is what I had to do. Tony was cracking jokes about his spy nest, and I mean, even like had like the other members of his Final Tribal cracking up. And yeah, so Natalie only got 4 votes. Ethan, Parvati, Tyson, and Jeremy. Jeremy was her ally from back in her original winning season, and then Tyson we saw it with the idol giving, and seemed like they were friends as well. and then you had Parvati and Ethan, who were her edge mates. I thought Michelle deserved at least one vote, because if you play this whole season on the bottom and you get to the end and like you win some immunities and you play an idol and you do all this stuff, I think that deserves at least something, even like at least a pity vote, because she didn't get voted out first. I like the Natalie story, but I would vote for Michelle over Natalie.
Yeah, I thought that Natalie should have won. Or not won, but I thought she deserved the votes that she got. Just the story, honestly, is what I really thought. But yeah, Michelle definitely probably deserved a vote or two in there. But
it's like, come on, Nick and Wendell. What do you guys aren't gonna do any? You guys aren't gonna affect it. Might as well just toss her a bone. She played great.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like people kind of get the sense that maybe it's a 2-horse race, or they might have talked to each other a little bit, maybe, who knows. But they could probably figure out pretty quickly that if they voted for Michelle, it's not really gonna influence anything. So they probably just pick their favorite out of the two.
Yeah. So going back to the finale episode, right when the votes got read for Tony, 12-4, there was only like a minute left, and he didn't even get like any interview time, because partially because it's Zoom and it's COVID-19 and all this stuff, but the rest of the finale was just on the gameplay and stuff. So I'm like, dang, I really wish I could have seen more Tony interview time at the end.
Yeah, they definitely cut that short. I really, obviously circumstances. I thought it was kind of funny that Jeff was in his garage. I was kind of wondering, like, before they got and showed that. I was like, how are they going to do this? Like, where are they going to carry this to? And he was like sitting there with like the whole like background that was shipped into him and stuff. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, Jeff was hamming it up too. He's like, I'm in my garage. This is the first time we've ever read final votes from my garage. It's like, we get it, dude.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I thought, I would have liked to see a reunion. Obviously you can't really do it. I mean, they had that Zoom call. That thought it was funny to be able to see everybody after Survivor and how they look when they're not all ragged and out on an island for 39 days. Who did you think looked the weirdest, or was the weirdest to see after the entire show, watching them and then seeing them after they cleaned up?
Seeing them like on the jury or like on TV, like in that like Zoom box thing?
I mean, I think they cleaned up after, like when they walk in the jury too, but you could say on the Zoom thing. I
thought, well, I guess Ben had his full beard back by the Zoom, but like when he shaved it just down to a mustache for like Final Tribal and stuff, I was just like, whoa, that looks kind of weird.
Yeah. For me, it was actually Denise. Denise's hair was funky.
Yeah, like, it was. I was just used to seeing her look like this, like absolute badass with like the bun, and she was just jacked in like a sports bra the whole time. And then she comes back and it's like all like wavy and like across her like eye. I'm like, whoa, did not expect that.
Yeah, Denise definitely was one of those people. And then Tony without the beard and like he like shaves his head. I'm not sure, like he kind of. I can't remember during the show.
I feel like he just grew like
some bit of hair.
Yeah, he had a little bit of hair, just like little specks, where you can at least see. And then his beard also looked really good. Like I feel like people, just in general, like sometimes they look worse when they clean up, like on Survivor, and then put up like hella makeup on. I swear, like beards, and especially when the beards are cut, I feel like beards make men more attractive. And for some reason, like pounds of makeup on like a reunion show, like after we're used to seeing them like just like dirty the whole time, like it almost like doesn't do it for me. I don't know. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I'm always one kind of different topic, but I'm not a big fan of makeup. I actually thought Natalie looked completely different too in the Zoom call. She like had her straightened hair or whatever, and she had all the makeup on.
She looked pissed, but she tweeted, "I wasn't actually pissed. Just like it was kind of like Joel Embiid in the draft or whatever."
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess we could talk about just like overall season winners and losers. We've covered some of the people that were in the finale, but who else did you think had a good game and a bad game? Or who else were you impressed by? Because I'm sure you haven't seen every season. Some of these characters were new for you too.
Yeah. I mean, you see like a limited amount of them, I guess. Some people were voted out early and whatnot. Like I would have liked to see what Ewell could have done later in the end. He was an interesting
Yeah.
player to me. I didn't really know him very well, but I actually liked his game early on. I was definitely like I remember Denise actually was really impressed by her move with Sandra. I thought that was one of the most badass plays of the game,
Yeah.
where she convinced Sandra to give her an idol, and I thought that was definitely a cool move. Yeah, beyond that, um, Nick's game was actually not bad. I thought he was good with relationships and such. He's kind of thrown on the outs a couple of times and he didn't really know where the boat was going, but I thought he played well and showed out well
Mm-hmm.
for being a really recent winner and, not one of those big name players coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, for me, I'll just start with I already said that Ben was one of my big losers because I just thought he didn't really do anything gameplay wise, and he also made enemies out there with a couple of people. I know he had a tight relationship with Denise, Sarah, and Tony, but I just was confused overall by quitting in the final five at a all winner season. But also this was way early on, but Danny, I didn't know who she was going into the season, and she kind of put herself with the old school players. And then, if you can remember, she became super paranoid, and and then she got herself voted out. And I was just like, that was just not a good showing for her. I wish one of my biggest big picture pet peeves of the season was that all the old school players got voted out, like Boston Rob and Parvati and Sandra and Tyson, Ethan, all those guys went back to back, and I'm just
Yeah, right
oh,
away.
and Ewell, and I'm just like, no, I'd rather watch Rob, Tyson, Ethan, Ewell, Sandra, Parv than Wendell, Nick, Adam.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I actually really didn't even know Tyson that well. Like, obviously he's played a lot. Like, I recognize him and stuff. I just don't really remember him very much. And
Yeah, I
when
actually, this was my first season with him as well, but he was just like a complete presence that I was just like, this guy needs to be on my screen more. He's hilarious.
yeah, he was definitely. I liked him. I came to like him at least at the beginning. I didn't really think I enjoyed him too much. I was like, okay, who's this guy? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think in previous seasons, I think I've seen him. Maybe I saw his season a little bit at least. It's kind of fading my
Yeah,
memory at this
he
point.
played on season. His first time was on season 18, Survivor Token Teens, which I haven't seen that season. I haven't seen any of his other seasons, and then he played on season 20, Heroes versus Villains, which people say is one of the best
I've
seasons
watched
ever.
that one. Yep, I
And
remember
then
that one.
he also played on the one that he won was his third season, Survivor Blood versus Water, season 27, which is you play with a family member thing.
Yeah, I watched both of those. Yeah, so actually, my thoughts on Tyson, I didn't really actually like him in his seasons. I mean, I didn't have anything against the guy, but I wasn't cheering for him. I don't think in either of the two that I watched of his. So it was definitely interesting to see actually, what people liked about him this season, and I came to like him.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to some of his original seasons. I've been streaming. I in quarantine. I've started season 1, and right now I'm on Pearl Island, season 7, which is Sandra's original winning season. So I'm excited to get to some of the newer ones, especially the ones that are in HD, because the ones that are in a square and SD, that's just kind of tough to watch.
Yeah.
And then also, I'd say Kim and Jeremy and Sophie. Those three they played well. Sophie had the huge blind side, of course, with the 4-3-2 vote. But I think Kim and Jeremy were both perceptive on the game, especially Kim with getting Tony out. But I think they just had their backs pinned against the wall with no numbers.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Kim. She had her kind of finger on the pulse and knew that Tony was definitely the biggest threat at the time. And also I've always liked Jeremy's game and him playing and stuff, so I really enjoyed him. Thought he always shows that well. and he's a likable guy. But as far as Kim goes, I've actually didn't really like her that much because she was on the opposite side of Tony, who I was cheering for the entire season. So I didn't really pay attention to her too much, I guess. I feel like the people that I don't really like as much or don't want to win, I kind of ignore almost as much. And I, tend to not like what they're saying, obviously, because they're trying to get out, Tony or people that I like. So I didn't really follow too much of her game besides kind of when she started interacting with Tony and stuff. And I didn't really think she did much other than that as far as what I can remember, but maybe you have stuff.
Yeah, she didn't really. I mean, she shared with Sophie early on in the season that she like gave her half of an idol, and then Sophie was like, "You can't give me this to me. I'm the devil." She said something like that, where she's like, "What are you doing, giving this to me?" But then, like, I don't know. People say that Kim's season when she won, she was like basically completely dominated all aspects of the game and was like one of the most dominant seasons in Survivor history. Granted, but people say also that she had like the most idiots ever on the cast with her, so she was just like she would have gotten into the final three like no matter what. So that's in a season I'm actually excited to see because I like watching just completely dominance.
Yeah, I actually think I watched. I remember it was in fourth grade. I'm a senior in high school now. For everybody that doesn't know how old I am, but it was fourth grade that I watched Rob's season, and
Redemption Island.
Yeah, he had the most dominant one that I think I have ever seen.
Would you say that's over Tony's season this year?
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, he was playing with a bunch of noobs. The guy had everybody wrapped around his finger, so like it came to the merge, and he literally had everybody in the same alliance. The dude like talked everybody into the same exact alliance, and then they were all just like thought they were his guy, and they were all, a part of this, and they're all gonna make it to the end. And like obviously somebody's in the bottom, but like he just like had like a fear factor about him. So like if somebody like turned against him and wanted him out, then everybody else in the tribe, like nobody would go along with it, but everybody else in the tribe would like tell Rob that, hey, if this person wants you out, and then they'd all just vote for that person. And they just go vote after vote after vote. And I'm like, holy crap, this guy's like ridiculous. Like, how is he just doing this right now?
Yeah, and at that point, that was his fourth time playing. And I know season 8, which I'm about to get to in my Survivor streaming journey, which is he basically like I think he dominated, but that was when he like was on the same season as Amber, and they fell in love and stuff. But like apparently, that's people say season 8 was like one of the most bitter juries ever because everyone voted for Amber because they just didn't like Boston Rob. But I guess that's also part of the game is you have to manage friendships and bonds and not burn bridges because they're the people that have to vote for you. So yeah, I really enjoyed Boston Rob's gameplay. So
yeah, definitely Boston Rob was always a good player and really enjoyed his season. So
I'm gonna kind of change the subject here. I was curious what you think about fire tokens. They added them in this season, and what you think. Do you like them? Do you think they should go away? What do you think about fire tokens?
Yeah, actually, this is a topic I was wanting to talk about too. I really actually like the factor of currency that they added to the game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure where you are on this, but yeah, I thought it was definitely like cool to see, trying to buy an immunity or kind of an outside thing that wasn't really. It was another layer you could say added to the gameplay, so I really enjoyed that.
I think I also think that it could add another level of complexity to the game. I just think it needs some tweaking. I didn't think it was perfect the way they did it, and I hope that Edge of Extinction isn't a thing in future seasons because I'm just not really a fan of that because it takes away from the real game, and you see like less social stuff going on, and you don't know why Ben and Jeremy are fighting or what's going on or who's making bonds that'll make sense when the votes come in at the end of the season. So I don't know. I just think that they have some tweaking, and there's also a lot of interesting things you could do. Like, what if you could pull your things together and force a tribe swap, or like I don't know. There's a lot of things that they could come up with.
there's a lot more they can do with it. I agree. It's not gonna be perfect the first season, but it's not gonna be perfect the first season. But I think it was a good start.
I think Idols were kind of a flop at first when they came in, so it'll be. I think if they work on it, hone their craft, and kind of figure out what makes sense and what can affect the game in an interesting way and add more dynamics.
Yeah, I mean, I also, you talk about the Edge of Extinction. I actually really liked it this season just because you were able to see more of the old school players that you really liked and were excited about, and to see a little bit more into them and what they were doing and type of people they are. Like Ethan, like he was voted out early, and I wouldn't have known Ethan that very well. So I enjoyed actually seeing like Robin, Parvati, and Ethan and all those people over there for the majority of the show.
Yeah, I will say, actually, I kind of take back. I do think that Edge of Extinction shouldn't be a thing, but I also really like that it was on this season because, these are all, like, famous Survivor legends and players, and I wanted to see, like, I didn't only want a couple episodes of Ethan or Rob or Parvati. It was fun seeing them and go through their little Edge journey. But on the Edge of Extinction original season 38, that finale, I haven't rewatched it since, but that just like pissed me off to no end when Devins got knocked out by Chris. I was like, no.
Well, if you remember, Devins actually came back from the Edge of Extinction, so we would never have gotten that.
I don't even know what the game would look like, but the two people, the one that won and the one that would have won, they were both Edge of Extinction players. So I guess it's a two-sided coin or whatnot, but I just think I like how you're voted out, then you are voted out. But I mean, if I was on a season, maybe I would want Edge of Extinction. Edge of Extinction, I can't even say it, but so I could come back in the game. But hopefully, I wouldn't be voted out. I don't know.
Yeah, I actually thought it was really cool this season how with the Edge of Extinction, everybody was a part of the jury, except Sandra because she left, but I thought
that was funny.
That was so Sandra too. Like she's like, I'm not gonna win like an immunity or not immunity, but the challenge to get back into the game. So I hang out here and suffer like I did it, and I won twice, so I'm good. But I think it was funny how that ended. And now Tony's won twice, so the king and the queen.
I think Tony is one step above Sandra just because his gameplay was just more well-rounded. Like he actually had a physical side, because I know Sandra's side was like anybody but me was kind of her strategy, which definitely is great because it won her 2 titles and she's the queen of Survivor. But Tony was just like building spy nests, going crazy. He was swearing on his badge and his family and just going absolutely nuts. And I mean, and he also like played dominant season against all winners. So
yeah, I mean, definitely Tony's better in my eyes.
Tony's the GOAT in my opinion. The Survivor GOAT.
He won in the season of all winners. So I mean, what's more to say about that? So
all right. Yeah. What other stuff? Do you have any other things, or do you want to like come up with some ideas for future seasons, or?
I maybe brush on the hint, or I'm not sure what you want to call it, the tease for next season about where Jeff said, the 17, 18, 19-year-olds, come on, like apply. We want some of you guys to get on the show. I thought that was definitely interesting. Like maybe they might do some, I had like an idea, like they might have like, a bunch of 18-year-olds out there playing. Like that could be a really interesting concept. Or
yeah, that could be super interesting, but also it make me nervous just because of like, I don't know if like many people could handle it physically at that age, and also like their mental health and just like being by yourself and like getting betrayed by people, and just, I mean, people say like in this season that it did numbers to them. Like they didn't trust their own wife, they didn't trust their fellow firefighters, they didn't trust anyone. They thought people were plotting against them. So I mean, just to put a young person, that would be kind of sketch, but also it'd be good TV. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I mean, you hope they would know what they're getting into, but obviously you never know until you're out there. So
right,
it's completely different game. And at least they are briefed about like what are the possible outcomes and how this could end, and they know what the risks are and stuff. So
yeah, something I'd like to see in future seasons would be a couple things. I think that there should be longer episodes, first of all, because I feel like it's kind of crammed right now because there's just so much going on. They even had to like cut reward challenges this season. Like we didn't see any of them except for like beginning of the game, I think. And I still feel like they do them. And I've seen stuff that they've actually done them and they've been cut from the episode, but I feel like it needs to be episodes need to be at least an hour and a half so we can see everything. They even cut like from the early seasons the intro with the names and the song, and they also cut tree mail and just like a bunch of stuff. So
yeah, I didn't even notice that, but you're totally right. The reward challenges and tree mail and the intro and all that. So that's definitely interesting. One thing that I did like, I also want to talk about was the loved one visit this year. I thought that was really cool. They like brought out like everybody's family. And personally, my favorite group of family members that came out was Jeremy's. Where like he had his two daughters run out with like the Patriots like football jerseys on and stuff, and
I know they're all
running out like
jerseys.
Like sprinting, and they're like jumping in a circle and like hugging. I thought that was really cool. His kid was so cute.
Yeah, that was such a hype moment when he was like, "Let's go, let's go!" And I'm like, that just got me lit.
Yeah, so it was sweet. I thought that was just overall really cool how they brought like everybody out, and even for the people that were on extinction. Like my mom was like tearing up when she was watching it. And,
yeah, my aunt and uncle were also getting dusty in their living room watching that. So
yeah, I know we talked about before the pod a little bit, but just Tyson and his interaction with his kids and stuff, where he's out there and he's like, hey you guys, like this is what daddy does for a living. He's out here running around in his underwear. You get to see what he does. And I thought it was kind of funny. Like it's his job. Like he just won $1 million and now he's like acting like, hey, I'm in my underwear, it's my job, like I'm not really working. This is what
like,
I do.
Yeah, I'm in flamingo underwear. I got super long blonde hair. I don't have a job. I'm a dad and I go on reality game show in Fiji once every couple of years. But another thing that I'll say about like what I'd want to see would be they've shot in Fiji for like the past 10 seasons. And I almost think it's to the point where like people are expecting like what it's gonna be like, and there's like no emphasis on like the survival or like suffering or anything. Like they're all just like having a good time and like painting mugs, and like I'm like, is this even Survivor? Like the original days, they're like season 2, this guy falls into a fire and like he has to get medevaced, and they're like their water is just like poisonous, and I'm like, there's no suffering. Like you saw like at the beginning of the season, Nick put on like 30 or 40 pounds to lose when he got to the island. Like he was like looking a little thicker than he was back in his original seasons because he would have put on some weight. But which was kind of actually a funny strategy. I'm pretty sure Boston Rob said, I don't know where I saw this, whether it was on YouTube or on an episode, but he was like, it'd be kind of funny if Nick got voted out because he added all this weight to make it to the end. So yeah, like it'd be kind of fun to see like another location, but the Fiji shots are just like beautiful. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, change is always good in my eyes. I feel like I could use a little bit of a switch up here. Maybe they started out like in Africa. I think Ethan's season said it was. So
yeah, Survivor Africa.
We could do something a little bit different like that, or obviously it's really pretty and stuff, and it's classic kind of. It's like your classic location for Survivor, but I wouldn't mind seeing a mix up somewhere else. So
I'm pretty sure even on
Ethan, they might do that here in the future.
Almost got in trouble because it was like almost too dangerous because like it was so like they were just like in the middle of like a in a desert, and like there were just like lions outside of like they had a huge ring of like spiky like wooden things outside their camp to protect them from like wildlife, because like there were just like lions on the prey in the middle of the night that they could hear. I'm like, holy crap, that'd be scary. Yeah, when I first heard they had the Survivor Africa, I didn't even know about it, but I thought it was just ridiculous. Like,
Yeah,
in
I think
Africa,
like
holy crap.
so far season 1 I saw
really
they
out
did that.
there,
I think
but
they did that in like Fiji or somewhere that's like got a beach. And then I mean the unique locations they had, season 2 was Australian outback, and like I said earlier, one of the guys fell in the fire and it was like crazy and stuff, but they also did their tribal like on top of a waterfall mountain, which was super sick. And then I'm trying to think. Season 3 had Africa with like the lions and the craziness, and like that was like almost too bad. And then season 4 was Marquesas, which was Boston Rob's first season. I don't really know where that's at, but it's like a beach setting. And then season 5 was Thailand, and they were just like in this cave where like I don't know. It was like a pretty bad season, I think, but from in my personal opinion, but they were just like in this cave and there's like monkeys and stuff. Which and then that's a little more entertaining than like the Fiji B-roll these days. But and then season 6 was like on the Amazon River, so I think it'd be interesting to see like people actually suffer when they're playing this game, because I feel like that's like a part of the game that's like not even a factor anymore. It's like people like being drive crazy because they don't feel they're like got a million bug bites, and like I think they still get that now, but like I think it's even worse when they're like in a place. Yeah, like I mean, granted, I'd want to be in Fiji if I played. You
a
just want
season,
pain, don't you?
and I'm sure they have some sort of deal that makes it cheap for CBS and probably allows them to keep filming all these seasons and get to season 40 of a show. But I think it'd be hilarious to like see like something different, you know. It Yeah, what if they had like a
like
snow
Russia or
season? Like
something, like
they
battle the
haven't done
cold,
that
everybody's
yet.
in parkas.
All right, do you got anything else, or should we wrap it up? Or
Yeah, that could be pretty funny.
all right, Tony's the GOAT. Congratulations
That's all
to
I
Tony
got for
Vlachos
now.
and
Tony's the
Michelle
GOAT.
and Natalie on a season well played, and looking forward to season 41. Yeah, I mean everyone had a great season for the most part, so
Pretty much,
I'm
really
kind of sad to
everybody.
see some of these legends go. Hopefully, some of them come back though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Ethan, I always loved his story. He's inspired me a little bit, you know, with his fighting on edge of extinction, and
Yeah,
you know,
it
his
was a
whole
great
story
one,
and
one of the
everything.
best in recent memory.
It's season for the history books.
All right.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been Sam Swift and Charlie
Peace.
Pattinson, and our